And our game plan today, we've talked about this game plan in the past, called owner financing, but I don't think we have talked about the quadrant and how we view owner financing. Because there's a lot of sellers out there that are free and clear. And again, that number is going up, by the way, because there's a lot of baby boomers they're slowly but surely paying off their homes. It's like my mom did a couple of years ago. She's a baby boomer. Welcome back, everybody, to Real Estate Junkies Coast to Coast. My name is Russell. I'm on the West Coast. Steve is on the East Coast. Steve is off. I'm going flying solo today. And then we're going to bring it back to the basics. We're going to bring it back to old school. First couple episodes where we took questions from the associates. And then we're going to go over a game plan. And then we're going to pull down with a deal that I have going on. So I got a question from an associate. What do I say when the seller says, "Oh, I put her back on the market with a realtor"? We get that all the time because we're looking for off-market properties, right? So we're looking for houses that are expired, canceled, or withdrawn. We also look for FSBOs. Those are on the market, but they're being sold by the seller themselves. So we're looking for off-market mostly, right? So when it does come off the market, they come off the market for various reasons. They come off the market for it hasn't been selling. Maybe they priced too high. So it comes off the market, and then they're gonna reevaluate the price, and they put it back on the market. Or they had a buyer, right? They had a buyer in hand, then the buyer fell off for whatever reason. Maybe they couldn't get financing, so they came off the market. So there's a few reasons why they come off the market. Maybe they're just flat angry at their realtor because they haven't been doing anything, and so they canceled it or they withdrew it because the realtor wasn't doing their job. So we are looking for those type of sellers because they have the most motivation, right? So a lot of times we'll call, and a lot of times that they either found a new realtor or they have the same realtor and they're just dropping the price, right? So what do we say when a seller says, "Oh, I'm putting them back on the market"? Okay. We always start with, "Oh, okay. Yeah, we typically we buy from the homeowners. We don't work with realtors. How long are you tied up for with this realtor?" Because we want to find out how long of a contract they have. A lot of times it's 3 months. Sometimes it's 6 months. If you were selling right now, I would never, ever recommend 6 months with a realtor. Because you will know in the first 90 days, probably 60 days, whether your house is priced to sell. It shouldn't take 6 months, to be quite honest with you, to sell your house, unless you're in some sort of remote area or something where it's not habitable or whatever the reason is. But shouldn't have a 6 month. They want you because they want to tie you down. That's why we say, how long are you tied up for? So if you are selling, my advice is to get a 3 month, and you'll find out very quickly if your house is priced to sell. So we tell the seller, "Yeah, how long are you tied up for?" So hypothetically, they say 3 months. Okay, if you don't get the price you want or in the time frame that you want to sell it in, give me a call. You have my number. Give me a call. I'd love to chat with you. Let me ask you this, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. What are your plans if it doesn't sell? Hypothetically, let's say 3 months happens and it doesn't sell. What are you going to do? And that takes us into a lot of different directions because we can gauge on where the seller is motivationally. I don't know if that's a word, but so hypothetically, they say 3 months, it doesn't sell. We love when they say, "Oh, we're going to rent it," right? Because we've talked about one of the options, one of the game plans. One of our game plans is an assign out or a lease purchase, executive lease purchase, where we find a buyer and assign them back to the seller. The seller becomes the landlord at that point. They collect cash flow. They get a portion of the non-refundable down payment. So when they say, "Oh, we're going to rent it," then my spidey senses go up, and then I'll introduce the executive lease purchase to see if they're open to that rather than renting it. Because if you guys know about renting, not all of them are the best. But with an executive lease purchase, these tenant buyers traditionally are much better because they're vetted much harder. We look at their finances very closely, and they're putting a large down payment down. So they're fully invested in this house. So they traditionally don't trash it. They don't squat. They're trying to buy the home. So that's what we explain to the seller to see if they're open to the idea. So we always ask, okay, what are you going to do if it doesn't sell? And then so if they rent it, then we're going to go, in that direction. Or they're going to say, oh, we're going to drop the price, right? Let's say if we don't sell, we're going to take off the market and drop the price. Okay, before you do that, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, call me back because we pay full fair market value without commissions and fees. So we can lock in your price today, lock in your equity, and you're going to maximize your price before you start dropping the price and start losing money, losing that equity that you've been working hard for, right? So there's a few reasons why we ask that question, right? Because it's going to determine which direction we're going to go in. If they say, oh, we're just going to continue to live in it. Okay. And then, okay. Are you just going to give up, or do you plan on selling in the future? If they give up, then we basically, I think we just throw the lead away typically, because if they're just going to stay in the house and there's nothing really we can do, we're not going to try and force them to sell their home. But if they say, oh, we might put it back in the market in the spring, again, then that gives us another direction. Okay, if I paid full price today, would you sell? And sometimes they'll consider that, right? A lot of sellers, they need to sell this home in order to buy something else in the future. So that's another question we'll ask. Typically is, oh, okay, are you needing or wanting to sell this house in order to purchase something else down the road? Yeah, we're going to need, okay, because ours is a delayed cash sale. If you've listened to other episodes, these are delayed cash sales where we're maximizing the equity in their home. However, they don't need their money right away. So if they need their money right away to buy another home, this is probably not going to work, because not every seller is going to fit in our box, so to speak. So that is the skill set that we teach our associates, part of the associates. So the associates will, a lot of times they'll send in their calls, we'll critique them, and those calls that come in and we critique, a lot of them are, oh, I'm just going to put it on the market with realtors. So we want to make sure that our associates are saying the right things to open up different avenues of conversations, right? We don't want to give up, meaning, oh, I'm putting it back in the market with a realtor. Oh, okay. Do you mind if I call you back? And then you hang up with the person. Well, it's like, there's more to it. That was what I'm saying. Ask one more question, dig a little bit deeper, because then that'll determine which way we go with this seller. So that is the skill set. Again, we talk about the 3 pillars every week, which is mindset, skill set, and systems. So today we are talking about skill set, and then that is our warm up. So this was our warm up. We are now going to transition into our game plan. And our game plan today, we've talked about this game plan in the past called owner financing, but I don't think we have talked about the quadrant and how we view owner financing. Because there's a lot of sellers out there that are free and clear. And again, that number is going up, by the way, because there's a lot of baby boomers they're slowly but surely paying off their homes. It's like my mom did a couple of years ago. She's a baby boomer. So a lot of homes, I think 10 years ago is around 32%. And I believe the newest stat on that is it's creeped up to about 38% of homes out there are free and clear. So a home is free and clear. There's a lot of opportunity to do owner financing with them. In case their home is not selling, they don't need it. Could be a second home for them. So we introduce owner financing. Okay, if I got you a number, would you be open to owner financing? What's that? Oh, okay. You and I would agree on a price. We would agree on a monthly payment, and we would agree on a length of term. And then we would simply cash you out with a balloon payment on or before that date we talked about. So there's many sellers out there that understand owner financing, and they'll introduce, because essentially with owner financing, if you didn't know, you are going to be in first position acting as the bank, right? Title's going to transfer to me, hypothetically. And then you, the seller, is going to be acting as the bank. I'm simply going to be making payments to you directly, and you're just acting as a bank. If this has never happened, But hypothetically, if I stop paying, you could foreclose on me, which it's not going to happen because I've never done it. But that's the case. If you can foreclose on me, you can go through that process that normal banks would go through. It's just you're an individual that's doing the same things that normal bank would be doing. So those sellers out there that are savvy and they understand what owner financing is, we as a company, me as a solopreneur, when I do owner financing, I want the price is not really considered necessarily an issue. I want principal only payments because that principal is coming off the purchase price every month. And so that's my payday 3. We call it a payday 3. So by the end of when I pay the seller off, the purchase price actually is a lot lower by the end of the term. They still got their money that they want. Their balloon payments smaller, right? So I prefer principal only payments, and those payments, again, principal only, no interest, 5 years or more, and then hopefully there's no down payment. Now, I say that because that's how we make the most money on this. Out of the four game plans that we've talked about, this one is the most lucrative if we get the terms that we want. That's why we really don't care what the price is. Now, you run into a seller that's savvy, understands banking, understands interest rates, understand that a lot of times you need to put a down payment on to buy a home traditionally. So we put them in quadrants, right? So our quadrants is quadrant number 1 is price. Okay. That's the ultimate price. Okay. What are you looking to get? That's our first question we ask everyone. What are you hoping to get for a price? The second quadrant is, okay, if I got you a price, what kind of monthly payment are you looking for? Right. A lot of times they don't know right away because they're trying to sell traditionally and then the house came off the market. So we're introducing a new concept for them. A lot of times they don't know. And then the third quadrant is turn length. And then the fourth quadrant, which we don't bring up, we'll bring up monthly payment without interest. We'll just say monthly payment. Turn length, we don't bring it up, but it's 1, 2, and 3. And then the elephant in the room is quadrant 4, which is a down payment. We as a association or a community, we teach our students to try to get these houses under contract without putting any money down. No banks, no money, because we have a 3 payday system, a payday 1, where we get a down payment from the buyer, a payday 2, which is the cash flow that we charge the buyer, and then we're sending to the seller. So we're creating some sort of cash flow, as you guys would call it. We call it a payday 2. And then payday 3, as I described earlier, is the principal pay down, and then also the premium that we're going to sell to the tenant buyer. So that's the quadrant 4 is the elephant in the room. We don't talk about it unless they bring it up. So in my scenario, we have a savvy seller who wants to, says, oh, I want prime plus 1 is my interest and I want 25% down, right? So for us, that is not a good deal. As an investor, you do not want to do that because anytime somebody puts a down payment if you give a down payment to the seller, you're basically eliminating your payday 1. And we try to teach the association, the community, the 3 payday system, right? You want to get that payday 1 from the tenant buyer, you want that cash flow, and then you want the premium. If you have to give up that payday 1, then your payday 2, which is your cash flow, and then you payday 3, which is principal pay down, and the premium, it needs to be very large, and it has to be holistically, it has to look really good. Meaning, okay, I'm giving away my payday 1, so I'm not getting any money up front. So I have to be willing, almost like a seller has to be willing to wait for their money. So in this case, if I gave somebody a down payment, I'm going to have to wait 3, 4, 5 years in order to get cashed out. So you have to be willing to do that as long as the payday the paydays look good. Right. So scripting with that, if they wanted to, okay, we talk about the quadrants. Okay, Mr. With owner finance, we have 4 quadrants. It's the price, it's the monthly, it's the term length, it's down payment. Out of those 4 numbers that you gave me, what would be your top 2 most important that you need to get, right? Because we can't give you all 4. So we tell them up front, we just can't do it. We can't give you all those numbers. It just wouldn't make sense for us financially. Obviously, it makes sense for you because you gave us those numbers, but it doesn't make sense for us, and so we're out. But we're not out unless you are able, if there's some wiggle room there, right? So we ask them, what are your top 2, right? A lot of times they'll put price as their number 1, and they'll put the down payment, hypothetically. Okay. I don't put money down. Again, this is scripting. I don't put money down typically because we're paying you full price. However, if we do, it's something small, right? So what were you thinking? And you just tell the seller, what were you thinking? What kind of down payment were you thinking? Let's say come back with 25% or 20% or even 10. Okay, that's still a little bit too high for us. We're in the neighborhood of 0 to 5% down, in the neighborhood of 5 years or more. And then if you're looking for any type of interest, I'm a 0 to 4% interest. And so you just, again, is that something that you're open to chatting about? And they say yay or nay. If they, oh no, it's not going to work. And then you pull back. Okay, well, this is probably not going to work for us. What are you going to do if it doesn't sell? So you go back to the original script I talked about in the beginning, which is, if you don't sell, what are your plans? And they go, oh, we're going to rent. Okay, great. We have this other option called a lease, an executive lease purchase. We find the buyer, blah, blah, blah. I've already discussed that. So again, we give them the game plan. If they don't like that game plan, we have other game plans that we can introduce that could help. Now, with interest, we're not opposed to doing 5 or 6%, as long as maybe in year 1, okay, Mr. Seller, we're not opposed to giving you 6%, but I would need at least 1 year of principal pay down. Then at year 2, then we can get you to your 5 or 6%. Are you open to that? Right. So we're getting them to their interest rate, just not in the first year, because it's important for us to get that principal pay down. Right. So if we can get a year's worth of principal pay down, then we're okay with giving what they want as far as an interest rate, because a lot of times the tenant buyer that we have is going to cash out in 2 or 3 years anyway. So, if we can spec up for year 2 and year 3 at paying 6%. So there's a lot of things we can do with owner financing. With the down payment, we can do it over time, right? So if you are thinking of doing owner financing, there's a lot of ways you can structure it. And that's why they call it creative financing, because we can create any sort of, you can owner finance anything. You can owner finance a pen, you can owner finance a bicycle or your car. You can owner finance anything. So that's why they call it creative financing. And the fear with a lot of sellers that do that is, oh, I'm transferring title. You guys are just going to trash the place. They always say that. They always say, oh, what happens if you trash the place? Then I'm going to have to foreclose on you. And that's why they want a down payment. So that down payment could repair anything that we do. And it's not what we do. It's not who we are. We are morally, ethically to abide by the contract that we're going to create. Like I said, we find tenant buyers who are buyers. They're not renters. They're not going to trash the place. They're going to put a large down payment down. They're fully invested. So this stuff doesn't happen to us because we vet our buyers. And hypothetically, if something were to happen with the buyer, we're responsible, right? Because we're the homeowner. The title is transferred to our company. So we're the owners. If the tenant buyer doesn't perform, then we continue to make those payments. That's what that down payment is for. Because if we get a pretty good down payment and they don't perform, it's a non-refundable down payment. We simply just tap into that non-refundable down payment to keep making those payments to the seller. The seller wouldn't even know that the tenant buyer didn't perform. We would just either sell it traditionally, we can rent it out, or we can find another tenant buyer to put in there. So there's a lot of options we have when title transfers to you and you own the home. So yeah, there's a lot of benefits with owner financing. So that is our game plan, owner financing. Now let's pivot to the cool down. Cool down is I'm going to talk about a deal that I have going on. Now, this is when I make phone calls, after I leave a voicemail, I send an email of my business, how I can buy your home. And there's a couple of videos in there. And this guy emailed me back, says, "Hey, I'm willing to chat with you. I want to do a sub 2. I bought this one sub 2, and I was wondering if you would buy it sub 2 at this rate or whatever." I think it's a 4% on that loan that they have. And he wanted 20,000 down. Again, I'm going to talk to him after this and try not to get any money down. But if we do, then 20% I think is an okay number for me. I'll just get it from the tenant buyer and give it to him. When you do sub 2, again, you're buying the home subject to the existing loan, meaning the title is going to transfer to you or to my company. And then the mortgage is going to continue to stay in the seller's name until I cash them out. So he's willing to do that, right? There's a caveat to this. I've tried to do a couple homes in the mountains of Southern California. If you guys don't know, if you're back east, but we do have mountains here in Southern California. Where I live, I'm an hour away from everything. I'm an hour away from the desert. I'm an hour away from the mountains, and I'm an hour away from the beach. So it's pretty cool where I live because either if there's snow in the mountains, I can go snowboarding, drive home, put on my swimsuit, and then I can go drive another hour to the beach and hang out there. Pretty cool where we live. I had not had success in the mountains. It's called Big Bear Running Springs. This one's a little bit lower down the mountain, so it might work. It's a duplex. It cash flows, as the seller says. So I'm going to go check it out tomorrow. And then after the holidays, I'm going to chat with them and see what kind of deal we're going to do. But again, it's creative. I'm going to try to do something creative. Now, he's looking for a renter. So I might just buy it subject to and take on the renter, or we can co-list, right? If he's looking for a renter, I can look for my rental buyer, and then whatever happens first, I'll then buy the house. If he gets a renter, then I'll wait. I think he said he was going to do like a 6-month rental. So if he does a 6-month rental, then I'll wait. I have time. This is a good deal for me. I'm looking forward to going out there tomorrow and checking it out. It is a duplex. I've never bought a duplex before. I've always stuck with single family home. He said that it was actually the old post office up in the mountains there for that city. So this would be interesting. It has a unique layout. So I have to look at how I transfer it to a rent-to-own buyer. If not, I can just turn around and sell it for a profit, a quick turnaround. But we'll see. But that's our cool down. It is, again, a subject to somebody who bought it subject to, and then I'm going to buy it from him subject to. Good stuff. If you like the content and like what you're doing, again, there's a link in the show notes where you could dabble in creative financing. It's called our QOS Quantum Leap System home study course. If you like it, if you like what I'm talking about, and you want to, and if you're interested in maybe just doing the home study course and trying to do it on your own, you can do that. There is also, I think, link in there to get a strategy session with one of the coaches. And if you're interested, we can get you in the community and get you rolling and get you some deals. I appreciate your time. Give us a comment. If you can, give us a review. Give us 5 stars if you can, and share these episodes with a friend of yours, family members, whoever. We want to try and grow this show. All right. Take care, and I will catch you guys on the other side.